Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Up to yesterday, we'll discuss memory management. All these things I already covered. Memory hierarchy is also covered. Now coming to memory management and how a modern computer works. So if you observe, this is the diagram. This is the diagram. So here, what is a thread in this diagram? If we observe, there is a thread. What is a thread of execution? What is a thread of execution? Thread of execution is the smallest sequence of programmed instructions. Smallest sequence of programmed instructions that can be managed by a scheduler. That can be managed by a scheduler, which is typically a part of operating system. So thread is nothing but sequence of programmed instructions. A small sequence of programmed instructions is called as a thread. If you observe in this diagram, there is memory, and these are all devices, whatever may be the device. So each and every device must be communicate with the memory. Please take one example. Suppose if I want to take a printout from the printer, here the device is printer. Then if I want to print my resume, then I will send a request, IO request to a thread. Thread contains some programmable instructions. These programmable instructions communicate with the memory, through which this thread creates a cache memory. What is a cache memory? We already discussed yesterday. It is a temporary memory. It is a temporary memory. Whenever the thread execution is over, this cache memory is going to be removed. So if you observe here, whenever a printer is going send a request to execute or to give a printout, at the time the IO request will be sent to thread, and thread gives an instruction to memory. Whatever maybe the data is available, that will be stored in the memory itself. So your resume is in this memory. So open that resume and give a printout instruction. So this device is communicated with the thread, and this thread is communicated with the memory. Like this cyclic process is going to be executed. Whenever you want to take a printout, at that time this process is going to be executed. This is called as a von Neumann architecture. This is called as a von Neumann architecture. In this von Neumann architecture, there are multiple devices. That's why star M. There are multiple devices. Even if you take an example of your computer must have multiple devices. Your computer must have multiple devices, either printer, scanner, or speakers. So many devices are connected to our computer hardware, our computer. These so many devices will communicate with the thread of execution. So number of CPUs. If you go for multi-processing systems, the number of CPUs may vary from multi-processing systems to single processing system. So before going to explain further, we have to know about what are the types of systems available. For that, I am going to open. This is first unit. This is first unit. The material for the first unit is this one. I already discussed all these things. What is an operating system and operating system definitions, resource allocator, computer controller program, and we already discussed this interrupt cycle. Yesterday we already discussed the storage device hierarchy. Now coming to computer system architecture. Computer system architecture. The computer system may be organized in a number of different ways, which we can categorize roughly according to the number of general purpose processors used. Single process, there are three types. First one, single processor system, multi-processor system, clustered systems. First one, single processor system. Single processor system is nothing but whatever may be the operating system we are used, that is called single processor system. But nowadays we people also using multi-processor systems because we are doing multiple operations. So first observe, most systems use a single processor. That is, on a single processor system, there is one main CPU capable of executing a general purpose instruction set, including instructions from user processes. So in our system, there is only one main CPU. What is the purpose of CPU? CPU is nothing but control processing unit. Each and every instruction set will be executed in the CPU. Whatever may be the user request, that request will be calculated and computed and processing to your hardware. By using CPU only, we can do these all calculations. Central processing unit. So in the single processing system, there is only one main CPU. Next, second one. Almost all systems have other special purpose processors as well. They may come in the form of device specific processors such as disk, keyboard, and graphic controllers. There may be some different processors are available, special purpose processors. If we are going to install, if we are going to um, suppose if you purchased external hard disk, if you want to fix that external hard disk into your laptop or your system, at that time you must need some special purpose processors. Those are called as device specific processors. Whatever may be the device you are going to install in your system, you must need that device specific processors. Whenever you are going to install your keyboard or you fix your keyboard, keyboard is a hardware. If you want to work with the keyboard, ultimately you must use the device drivers for that keyboard. Nowadays, if you are going to fix a keyboard into your system, at that time there is no need of any installation process because the installation is automatically going to be executed. If you observe, whenever you insert USB port of the keyboard, in the bottom already your application program is going to be installed. Whenever the application program of your keyboard is installed, then only you are going to use that keyboard, or else you are unable to use that keyboard. So nowadays automatically the system itself taking the application programs. In olden days, if you purchase a keyboard with with that keyboard, they are giving one DVD or CD. In that CD, the device drivers of that keyboard is existed. Whenever you are going to purchase any webcam, at that time also they are giving one CD. In that CD, the device driver software is available. So for each and every hardware you are going to use, for that hardware we must need device drivers of that hardware. Device drivers of that hardware. So the device specific processors are going to execute these device drivers instructions. So whenever you are going to install a keyboard, at that time the device drivers are communicate with this device specific processors, then only the hardware is going to be used. Next, on mainframes, they may come in the form of more general processors such as IO processors that move data rapidly among the components of the system. Whenever you are taking the consideration of these mainframe systems are hugely used in the software industry, and the projects going to be dealt in mainframe systems will take lot of time. Suppose whenever you are going to join in a software company, if they give priority to choose a project, then you must go with mainframes project. మా సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఇండస్ట్రీలో మీరు కనుక లైఫ్ లాంగ్ ఉండే ప్రాజెక్టులు చేయాలి అంటే, మీకు కనుక సపోజ్ ప్రయారిటీ ఇస్తే మీరు కంపల్సరీగా మెయిన్ ఫ్రేమ్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ చూజ్ చేసుకోండి. ఎందుకంటే మెయిన్ ఫ్రేమ్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ ఆల్మోస్ట్ 8 to 9 years పడుతుందమ్మా. మినిమం చిన్న ప్రాజెక్ట్ తీసుకున్నా కానీ ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు కంప్లీట్ దట్ ప్రాజెక్ట్, ఇట్ విల్ టేక్ మినిమం 8 years ఆఫ్ టైం. సో మీరు ఆ ప్రాజెక్ట్లో కనుక పార్ట్ అయితే ఒక 2 years మీరు వర్క్ చేసిన తర్వాత మీరు ఆ కంపెనీ నుండి వెళ్దామన్నా కానీ వాళ్ళు మీకు సపోర్ట్ చేస్తారు. మీకేం ప్రాబ్లం ఉంది, ఫైనాన్షియల్గా మీకు ఏమైనా ఇంక్రిమెంట్ కావాలా, సో లైక్ దట్ దే ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు ఆస్క్. బికాస్ if they take any new person, it will difficult to maintain. That's why if you want to go, if you want to there is any option to choose a project in software industry, you must prefer these mainframe projects. So the mainframe systems are mostly used in software industries. So they are having their internal IO processors. Each and every time this IO processor is going to be executed. IO is nothing but input output, from where we are going to take input from our devices, from our hardware devices. From our hardware devices, we will give input to the system and we will see the output in that hardware only. Suppose if you want to take a printout, at that time you give instruction, you open your resume from Word document and simply what you will do? Simply simply you take a printout, Control P button. If you press Control P button, automatically the instruction goes to the printout. What you are doing here, you are developing a software. Each and every hardware must have a software inside. So you are going to give an instruction through this software. So whenever you press a Control P, automatically the instruction goes to input output processor. It will check for the hardware. The hardware is ready or not. If you forgot to switch on your printer, then the error message will come. Please switch on your printer. It is already in off mode. Like that, in mainframe systems, there are IO processors. And till now, if any doubt, please raise your hand so that I will unmute you and I will clear your doubt. Please, if you have any doubt till now, please ask me so that I will unmute you and clarify your doubt. Please raise your hand. Anyone have doubt? So if you don't have any doubts, I'll continue further. Okay, I'm going to continue. Next, all of these special purpose processors run a limited instruction set and do not run user processes. Some special purpose processors are there. The purpose of these special purpose processes is they are going to execute the specific hardware only. They are not at all going to execute other user processes. They execute only the specific or special purposes only. They are not going to execute, they do not execute, they do not run user processes. Only specific purpose processes are going to be executed. Suppose if you go for take a snapshot, at that time your webcam processors are going to execute only that special request given by your webcam. That's it. No user processes are going to run. Next, sometimes they are managed by the operating system, in that the operating system sends them information about their next task and monitors their status. So in some times, suppose if you go for any software industry, your client is an US client, American client. So the working hours for Indians may differ from the client. సపోజ్ చూడండి అమ్మా, మనం కనుక ఏదైనా క్లయింట్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ డీల్ చేసేటప్పుడు సపోజ్ క్లయింట్కి ఏదైనా ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చింది, క్లయింట్ మనతో కమ్యూనికేట్ అవ్వాలి. సో క్లయింట్ మనకి ఒక రిక్వెస్ట్ సెండ్ చేశాడు, టుమారో మార్నింగ్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు డూ సమ్ వర్క్. సో హీ గివెన్ సమ్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ టు యూ, కంప్లీట్ దిస్ వర్క్ అప్ టు టుమారో మార్నింగ్. సమ్ టైమ్స్ యూ బోత్ విల్ కమ్యూనికేట్. సో ఒక్కొక్క సిచ్యువేషన్ ఎలా ఉంటుందంటే మీ ఇద్దరు కమ్యూనికేట్ అవ్వాల్సి వచ్చిందమ్మా. బట్ దెర్ ఈస్ సమ్ ఫెసిలిటీ లైక్ యూ షెడ్యూల్ యువర్ వర్క్. మీరేం చేస్తారంటే మీ నార్మల్ టైమింగ్స్లోనే అప్ టు ఈవినింగ్ 5 o'clock లోపు ఒక కోడ్ రాసి, ఆ కోడ్ మీరు ఇప్పుడు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేయరు. ఆ కోడ్కి మీరు ఏం చేస్తారంటే షెడ్యూలింగ్ పెడతారు. ఎప్పుడైతే మీరు షెడ్యూలింగ్ పెట్టారో ఆటోమేటిక్గా ఆ కోడ్ మార్నింగ్ 10 o'clock రన్ అయింది, లేకపోతే midnight 1 o'clock రన్ అవుతుంది. సో క్లయింట్ వచ్చే టైం మిడ్ నైట్ కాబట్టి ఆటోమేటిక్గా క్లయింట్ ఏమనుకుంటాడంటే మీరు ఇప్పుడు లైవ్లో ఉండి ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేశాడు అనుకుంటారు. బట్ మీరేం చేస్తున్నారు, ప్యారలల్గా ఏదైనా టాస్క్, క్లయింట్ ఇచ్చిన టాస్క్ని మీరు ఏం చేస్తున్నారు, ఆ టాస్క్ని షెడ్యూలింగ్ చేసుకొని ఆ షెడ్యూలింగ్కి రిలేటెడ్గా మీరు వర్క్ చేస్తున్నారు. సో దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ దిస్ వన్. So in software industry, we must schedule. There is a situation like we have to schedule our programs according to client requirement. Whenever client log into his system, then that time only the program is going to be executed and results will be displayed to the client. సో మీరు రాసిన ప్రోగ్రాము కరెక్ట్గా ఆ టైంకి ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది. మీరు ఎప్పుడైతే ఆ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఆ టైంకి ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేశారో ఆటోమేటిక్గా ఆ రిజల్ట్స్ అన్నీ కూడా క్లయింట్కి తెలుస్తాయి. సో ఆ టైంలో క్లయింట్ ఆ రిజల్ట్స్ని ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తాడు. మీరు స్టిల్ యూ పీపుల్ ఆర్ జాయినింగ్. ఐఎమ్ గోయింగ్ టు లాక్ ద సెషన్. ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ కరెక్ట్. ప్లీజ్ join 10 minutes. After 10 minutes I am going to lock your screen. If our session starts at 9 o'clock, please join up to 9:10 only. After that I am going to lock. So this is about that thing, task. Next, this arrangement relieves disk controller. We already discussed this disk controller example. PCs contain a microprocessor in the keyboard to convert the keystrokes into codes to be sent to the CPU. మీరు ఎప్పుడైనా మీ కీబోర్డ్ కనుక అబ్జర్వ్ చేస్తే, for each and every key in the keyboard there is a different keystroke. There is a microprocessor, inbuilt microprocessor is there in the CPU, in the keyboard. Whenever you click one key, suppose you press A, so automatically the instruction is given to the CPU, and the CPU identified the key based on the keystroke. If you press caps lock, automatically it will display capital letters. If you on caps lock and press key A, then automatically capital A will be displayed. So the processor in keyboard will understand by using the keystroke. Each and every key has different keystrokes. Next, the operating system cannot communicate with these processors. They do their job autonomously. So the operating system cannot do anything for these specific processors, microprocessors, or sometimes special purpose processors. For each and every process, the operating system role is not at all there. They themselves, they are having some processor. Automatically, that processor is communicate with CPU and going to execute. Next, the use of special purpose microprocessors is common and it does not turn single processor systems into multiprocessor. So you are using so many special purpose microprocessors, but what it means, our system is only single processor. So even though you are using so many special purpose microprocessors, but it doesn't turn a single processor system into multiprocessor. So even though you are having 100 special purpose, even though you are having 100 special purpose processors, but your system or our system is treated as only single processor system. Next, if there is only one general purpose CPU, then the system is single processor system. See, first point itself, if we are having one main CPU, then it is called as single processor system. And second one, multiprocessor system. Although single processor systems are most common, multiprocessor systems, and sometimes these are called as parallel systems or tightly coupled systems, are growing in importance. Such systems have two or more processors in close communication, sharing the computer bus and sometimes the clock, memory, and peripheral devices. Multiprocessor systems. So different types of multiprocessor systems are available nowadays. And even the present laptops or present systems, whatever we are using, automatically they are all multiprocessor systems, because you are taking quad core processors, multi-core processors we are using. So we are using nowadays, we are using multiprocessor systems only. Even though single processor systems are most commonly used, but nowadays we are all using multiprocessor systems only. Such systems have two or more processors, we are already discussed. Increased throughput. Before going to increasing throughput, first of all, what is a throughput? Throughput is the rate of production or the rate at which something is processed. Throughput is the rate of production. Throughput is the rate of production. So whatever may be the code we are going to produce, the rate of production is called as throughput. So throughput increased. So the rate of production must be increased. So throughput is increased by increasing the number of processors. If you are increase the number of processors, automatically the throughput is going to be increased. We expect to get more work done in less time. Here we expect to done more work. So right now I am going to lock and I will take attendance too. I'm going to lock the screen. I'm going to pause the recording. I'm starting now. So increased throughput. The rate of our output is called as throughput. Throughput is increased by increasing the number of processors. The number of processors. We expect to get more work done in less time. The main purpose of this multi-processing system is expect more work in less time. Suppose the best example for this one is if you go for ATM system. If you go for any ATM system, what you have to do? You have to withdraw money. For the sake of withdrawing money, it is taking very less amount of time. It is taking very less amount of time. Fraction of seconds only you will receive the amount. So at the time, wherever you go to ATM machine, that machine is called as client. This machine is communicated with the bank server. So parallelly, it is going to do different processes. First one, it is communicate with the server, and then automatically it is displaying a screen to you. In background, it is going to do another process. So displaying one process to you, and it is sending request to server. So parallelly, it is going to execute more than one process, and it take response from the bank server automatically. If in your account amount is available, then you simply withdraw the amount. If amount is not available, then we are unable to draw the amount. Next, economy of scale. Multi-processing systems can cost less than equivalent multiple single processor systems because they can share peripherals, mass storage, and power supplies. So in multi-processing systems, the cost is very less when compared to multiple single processor systems. Suppose if I want to use single processor systems, so I want to purchase 2 or more single processor systems. It will cost something around, suppose if my single processor system cost 30,000. If I want to convert this one to multi-processor system, once again I have to go and purchase another single processor system. So that if we need multi-processor systems, we have to purchase multiple single processor systems, rather than if I purchase multi-processor system, when compared to this one, the cost is very less. The simple example is if you want to purchase a hard disk. Suppose 1 terabyte hard disk cost around 4,000, but in the case of 2 terabytes, it costs only 5,000. The difference was only minimal, 1,000 only. If you want to purchase multiple hard disk, then you have to purchase one terabyte hard disk for 4,000, and second 1 terabyte hard disk for 4,000. So it costs around 8,000. But when come to single hard disk, 2 terabyte hard disk, it costs only 5,000. Like that, if you want to maintain multi-processor systems, there are two ways. You purchase multi-processor system or you purchase multiple single processor systems. Ultimately, the multi-processor system can cost less when compared to multiple single processor systems. Next, increased readability. Automatically the processors are increased, automatically our readability is going to increase. The best example for this, the processors increase. The mobile phones, whatever the mobile phones you are using, the mobile phones processing speed is very much high when compared to 5 years ago. If you take 5 years ago mobile phone, the processing speed of present mobile phone, the both will vary. So increased readability. If functions can be distributed properly among several processors, then the failure of one processor will not halt the system. Suppose if you are using single processor system, if there is any collision occur at that time, the process going, our operating system is hanged, because we are using single processor system. Suppose if we are using multi-processing system, even though one processor is failed, another processor is going to execute our operating system processes, so that the failure won't come. The multiple processor systems in use today are of two types. First one, asymmetric multiprocessing. Second one, symmetric multiprocessing. Do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts, please raise your hand so that I will explain your doubt. Please, if you have any doubt, ask me. I will explain. Anyways, today I will share this document to you. Today I will share first unit document to you. From tomorrow onwards, what we will do is I will explain by point, no problem at all. This first unit contains almost 28 pages. At the end of every unit, I will given questions like this, no problem. So today I will share this document to you. At the completion of every unit or half of the unit, I will conduct one small exam if possible. Objective type exam I will conduct, no problem. So, do you have any doubts? Please raise your hand so that I will unmute you and you will ask the question. No questions? Okay, I will continue. Symmetric multiprocessing systems and asymmetric multiprocessing systems. First one, asymmetric multiprocessing system. The name itself asymmetric. So in asymmetric multiprocessing, which each process is assigned a specific task. There is no symmetry between one processor to another processor. So for each and every processor, it is assigned a specific task. A master processor controls the system. Among all multiple processors, there is one master process. So this master process is going to control each and every concept of the system. The other processors either look to the master for instruction or have predefined tasks. Suppose there are 10 processes, 10 processors. In asymmetric processing, multiprocessing, if you are having 10 processors, in the 10 processors, one processor acts as master processor and remaining 9 processors are having their own specific tasks. Remaining 9 processors having their own predefined tasks. So these 9 processors are waiting for master process for any instruction. If there is no instruction, they have predefined tasks. They are going to execute their predefined tasks. So this scheme defines a master-slave relationship. In asymmetric microprocessing, there is a master-slave relationship, nothing but owner and slaves. So owner give instructions to those slaves. So depending on their instruction, owner instruction only, these slaves are going to work. So depending on master instructions, these slaves are going to work. And the master processor schedules and allocates work to the slaves. The single, in our example, 10 processors. The one master process is going to schedule and allocate work to the remaining 9 processors. Each processor has its own memory and address space. Each and every process is having their own address and memory space. Next, coming to symmetric multiprocessing. Each processor runs an identical copy of operating system. So in asymmetric, there is no identical copies. But in the case of symmetric, each processor runs an identical copy of operating system. These copies communicate with each other. So there is no master-slave concept here. Each and every processor having same priority and each processor runs an identical copy of OS. The main difference between symmetric and asymmetric is, in asymmetric, there is a master. Depending on the master instructions only, the slaves are going to work. Or if there is no instruction from the master, they do their own work. But in the case of this symmetric multiprocessing, there are no masters and slaves. Each and every processor runs and an identical copy of operating system, and these copies communicate with each other. Whatever may be the copies available, the operating system copies, all the copies are communicate with the processors. So there is a communication between among the processes. Each processor performs all tasks within the operating system. Within the operating system, they communicate and they run all the tasks. The benefit of this model is that many processes can run simultaneously. N processes can run if they have N CPUs. In our multiprocessing system, if we are having 100 CPUs, automatically 100 processes can run simultaneously without causing a significant deterioration of performance. So there is no need of, there is no degrading of performance. The performance will remain same, and 100 processes are going to be executed parallelly. Next, third one, clustered systems. Clustering is nothing but grouping. Clustering is nothing but grouping. The similar type of CPU is going to group, that is called clustering. Another type of multiple CPU system is the clustered system. Like multiprocessor systems, cluster systems gather together multiple CPUs to accomplish computational work. The major difference is clustered systems differ from multiprocessor systems. However, in that they are composed of two or more individual systems coupled together. So here, two or more individual systems coupled together. And the clustered systems, the generally accepted definition is the clustered computers share storage and closely linked via local area network or a faster interconnected such as InfiniBand. InfiniBand is a fast internet connected system. So these clustered systems must communicate through LAN. In our college, in our lab, we are using this LAN. So because in our college, one lab, all 60 systems are clustered into a single group. So each and every system will communicate one another by using this LAN connectivity. And clustering is usually used to provide high availability service if we need high availability, because operating system is every time is going to busy doing some works. So many processors are going to execute there. So each and every time operating system is going to monitor each and every time. So if we need high availability, if we are doing a high complex projects, if we are doing complex projects, automatically we need these clustered systems. Let me take an example of satellite communication. If you are doing project, if you are sending a satellite, then at that time the organizations must go for this clustered systems because they need high availability service. They need high availability service. Next, this is the example. Interconnected, different CPUs are going to interconnect. Here SAN is nothing but storage area network. Instead of SAN, you have to use your hard disk. No, you have to use your database, no problem. You will go for hard disk also. This is a general structure of clustered system. Here in SAN, the data is going to be stored. This data is transferred to multiple CPUs. Multiple CPUs. These are all CPUs are interconnected to each other. one CPU is connected with another CPU. Like this interconnected communication is there, and all these CPUs communicate with the database, and the high availability is there because of we are using clustered systems. Next, operating system structure. If you are having any doubts, please raise your hand. I think today's it is enough. Tomorrow I will discuss operating system structure. Till now, if you have any doubts, please raise your hand so that I will clear your doubt. I will give 2 to 3 minutes of time. If you have any doubt, please raise your hand so that I will unmute you and ask, explain your doubt. Suppose if you take one example, uh, suppose I am a master, I am having 10 persons as slaves. In that case, whatever may be the instruction given by me, that instruction can be executed by the slaves. Here, if you take the example of asymmetric multiprocessing system, a master process, asymmetric multiprocessor having master-slave relationship. A master process controls the system. Suppose whenever we are using multiprocessing system, simultaneously we are doing multiple operations. Suppose I am playing a game and as well as I am listening music. But due to a high priority request coming from operating system, so the master process will stop these two processes, these two slave processes, listening music and playing game. It stops these two processes and given priority to operating system, because whenever we are going to do any work in our system, operating system plays a crucial role. So the slave processor are going to stop by the instruction of the master. Here the master is nothing but kernel or operating system request. Automatically the remaining processes are going to be stopped. Whenever the operating system process its execution is over, then the master requests the remaining two slaves to start your work once again. Automatically these two works are going to be start. So like that, master give instructions to all the slaves, and all the slaves are going to respond according to the master's work. If the master is not going to give any work, each and every slave having their own works, so they will execute their works. So master is going to monitor all the works of these slaves. Do you understand? Still, if you have doubt, please let me know. Please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. So this is now enough now. So I am stop over here. From tomorrow I'll explain operating system structure. Thank you one and all.